over in the northeast just yet. That is something that we're going to talk about, but we have to talk about those rain and snow totals from yesterday's storm, and we are staying a bit windy. Starting out with those impressive snow totals out of the northeast, we can see New Hampshire, Vermont, as well as areas of New York saw well over a foot of snowfall, especially in areas of eastern New York reaching into New Hampshire as well as Vermont. But those snowfall totals in the last 2 days show those highest amounts in those spots that I just told you about into eastern New York as well as the mountains of Vermont and New Hampshire. But those winter weather alerts are continuing until later this evening unless they decide to cancel them early. But we do have some winter storm warnings still in effect in some areas of New York and Vermont because we haven't finished with that snow just yet. And that rain on the opposite side of the spectrum here, we can see almost 4 inches of rain in some portions of Maine. Maine, you really were the winners of all this rainfall. 3 to 4 inches was pretty common across the state of Maine, but also Philly, almost 2 inches of rain just within the past couple of days here. Now, that did lead to some flood concerns that are still ongoing, mainly along the coast today. So pay attention to that, especially if you live or are around the coastal areas throughout the day. But that forecast shows a lot of that stubborn snow this morning is eventually going to start to lighten by lunchtime this afternoon, and then by the evening hours a lot of us will see some dry time. But as you can see, this low is still in sight, so it's not completely out of the area. Areas of New Hampshire and Maine could still be dealing with some snow from the same system by Tuesday morning. At this point, I think we're all ready to say goodbye to it, right? And by then, at least by Tuesday late morning, we'll start to see some more dry time across the northeast as a whole here. Our next system starts to come into play, bringing us spotty rain and, wintry mixed chances, but it doesn't look to be too promising throughout the day on Wednesday. We'll see quite a bit of dry time as we head into Wednesday, thankfully. Looking at that forecast accumulation, we could see upwards of about 3 to 6 more inches of snow, but it's going to be pretty isolated. Not a lot of us are going to see this, and those temperatures also warming in the next few days, already in the 60s Tuesday and Wednesday in New York City. Dover, Delaware, we could see our next rain chance showing up just in time for the weekend, unfortunately, but at least we have some 70s to enjoy before that cool down. Looking at the wind alerts, unfortunately today still going to be a breezy day. These don't let up until Tuesday early morning. And you can see that breeze is going to be around for much of the area from New York down into areas of the Appalachia and along the coast. It's going to be gusting up to about 40 to 45 miles per hour throughout the day today. Overnight, they start to calm down, which is why it's not a big concern, but you might notice that breeze at times throughout our Tuesday as well. Looking at the snowfall totals in the mid-Atlantic here, we could see those purple spots towards Cleveland as well as areas towards Lake Erie in Pennsylvania, and that did lead to 6 to 7 inches of snowfall in portions of Ohio, Pennsylvania, and even Jamestown, New York. 6 inches of snowfall yesterday. Good news is the forecast very dry throughout our day today. In fact, our next rain chance coming on Wednesday morning, kind of just skimming along this front, and it's going to break up as it moves to the east. So forecast accumulation, really nothing too fancy or nothing too substantial. Now we're taking it over to this, that we had some snow across areas of Michigan yesterday. We're looking at our next storm chance, and those nice warm temperatures are leading to some fire concerns. Starting out with those snow reports coming out of Michigan, Mansalona, 5 inches of snow, and that was the highest report I could see. So definitely not our biggest snowfall, but at least it's something, right? Over the next few days, though, expect things to melt here pretty quickly because we'll see quite a bit of sunshine by the end of Monday, and our next system starts to reach into the area, but it takes its time. So most of Tuesday is nice and dry for us, and in fact, we actually start to see our next rain chance skimming into portions of Illinois, Indiana, and into southern Michigan in those overnight hours from Tuesday into Wednesday. We could see quite a bit of rainfall just skimming through southern Michigan throughout the first half of the day on Wednesday, but then we'll see some dry time after that. Forecast accumulation, really nothing here to call home about if you ask me. Kind of trace amounts across the area, but I figured I'd show you so you know what to expect. Forecast temperatures, this is another reason why I think that snowfall on the ground is going to melt here very quickly. We can see the 50s and 60s across Detroit in the next 3 days. Same with Traverse City, Fort Wayne, Chicago, flirting with 70 degrees on Tuesday in Chicago. Traverse City, that extended forecast, your next rain chance coming Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and that also does bring some cooler temperatures, but puts us closer to average. Now, looking in the Central Plains, like I mentioned, we're looking at our next storm chance, and we have a chance of seeing some stronger storms form late Tuesday from Kansas City down to Nevada into Tulsa and outside of Ponca City. So it's a relatively smaller area on Tuesday, but then if we look at Wednesday, it encompasses a bigger area. So from Lincoln, Nebraska, skimming into southern Omaha, south of Des Moines, south of I-80, into Kirksville, over towards Springfield, into Tulsa, and farther south from there. So we have that chance of seeing a couple of storms, not only Tuesday night, but also throughout the day on Wednesday, and some of those could reach severe levels. Now, I will tell you right now, our weather models are doing a very hard time picking up on some of those isolated storms. That's one of the things that it has the hardest time of doing. It's just isolated cells. It's hard to exactly pinpoint where those are going to be. So we can see that storm chance late Tuesday night and into the morning hours of Wednesday. Again, it does linger into Wednesday night as well, but forecast accumulation shows nothing too bad. Maybe some of those cells could produce upwards of about half an inch, maybe even an inch, but I think that's pushing it. Those temperatures in the 70s, and man, the warmth, this has been no joke to talk about, and it does lead to some more instability in the atmosphere, which is giving us that storm chance on Wednesday. Same with Thursday in Kansas City, and you see that big temperature drop in between Wednesday and Thursday, a 10-degree difference, and we are much cooler over the weekend, but close to average. Our last stop into the northern plains, we could see red flag warnings in South Dakota into Minnesota, as well as Iowa and Nebraska today because of fire weather expected. Again, we have that chance of seeing some record warmth in areas of the northern plains throughout the day today, and that just adds fuel to the fire weather, if you will. Taking a look at those temperatures, you could see a cool down is in trend for us, especially in areas of North Dakota. Small rain chances throughout our second half of the day on Tuesday and into those overnight hours, but a lot of us are going to stay dry from the system as it moves out of the area. Now we're taking it over to portions of Texas conditions that are going on across the U.S., and it's an exciting time of year.
It is because, I mean, it's spring break for some folks. It's almost springtime, which means we're getting more and more sunshine, more and more daylight. So I know a lot of folks are excited about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what this shows us. This shows us the amount of daylight in minutes that we gain in this month alone.
Amazing, amazing, amazing stuff. St. Patrick's Day is only 6 days away, so right around the corner, but so is the spring equinox.
Yeah, and Easter, I can't believe we're already talking about Easter.
I know.
I can't believe it's
Time
in this
flies.
month. Where did February go?
I have no idea.
I don't know either.
For many folks in Florida, it's spring break, or many folks are heading to Florida for spring break. Fort Lauderdale, I mean, it looks gorgeous out there. High 70s to low 80s.
Can't complain about that, but one thing that you can complain about are the rip current statements that we have along that eastern shore of West Palm Beach down to Homestead, Florida.
Yeah, so that can be dangerous for even the best of
Absolutely.
swimmers, especially for people who are coming in, visiting, the tourists in the area. If you catch yourself within a rip current, you want to go parallel to the coast. That's what's going to get you out of the current.
Yeah, and that's a great one. It says break the rip, and then
Go back.
Yeah. Don't fight, swim left or right.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
A good one to memorize, and that way when you're in that situation, you're not panicking. You remember the little phrase, and it gets you through.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. Some of those beach flag warnings, also another thing that you should memorize if you're headed out. Still there. What's going on in the northwestern U.S.? We still have some more moisture ahead. Heavy mountain snow is expected, and we're looking at our next snow chance in the Rockies. So starting off, this is our second system compared to yesterday. Second system this week. Let me clarify that. It's going to move onshore throughout the rest of our Monday, and timing that out for you, this one holds together much better than the one that we had on Sunday. Let me tell you that. It's going to bring us heavy rainfall along the coastal areas and quite a bit of snowfall in the Cascades too. Monday afternoon will be quite a soaker, especially for areas of western Oregon and Washington. It reaches over those mountains and brings us some more rain and snow in areas of eastern Oregon, Washington, and into Idaho by Monday night. That evening commute could be a little bit rough. If you can work from home today, I would recommend it. But if you can't, use some extra time out there on those roadways this morning and this evening because you'll probably want it. Tuesday morning, a lot of that snowfall across areas of Idaho, but still, even behind it, we could see some pockets of rain and snow still lingering into the Evergreen State as well as both states as a whole. We see a lot of it becomes more scattered and spotty as we head into Wednesday, though, which is good. Winter weather alerts into Tuesday morning. We could see up and down the spine of the Cascades, mostly winter weather advisories and reaching into Idaho as well. But into southern Montana, we do have a winter storm warning over the concern of seeing some more snowfall. Forecast accumulation shows us upwards of about a foot of snow expected in the Cascades across Idaho and reaching up into the Rockies too. We can see even more snow in some of those taller peaks with the potential of seeing 2 to maybe even 2.5, 3 feet of snow, but it's not going to be widespread. Forecast rainfall shows those highest amounts along the foothills of the Cascades and along the coastal areas of Oregon and Washington. Wind alerts are still ongoing, but just in southern Oregon from Lakeview and Coos Bay, as well as outside of Medford, gusts up to 60 miles per hour are possible. And these are just some of the gusts that we've seen over the last 2 days. So they are out there and they are possible and likely throughout the day. Those high temperatures today in the 40s and 50s across the board, we're going to be kind of cooling things down for our Wednesday and our Tuesday, but Thursday doesn't look to be too bad. Seattle, Washington, lots of rainfall Monday and Tuesday, but a drier 7-day forecast after that. That's exciting. The Northern Rockies, though, we're looking at some 60s in areas of the Black Hills, even close to 60 in Casper as well as Billings. It's going to be pretty nice today, and then you start to see a cooling trend behind this system. So enjoy the warmth that we have today before things change for us. Throughout our Monday, you have some spotty moisture, but it's not going to be as hefty as some other areas. Monday night, you start to see it reach into Idaho, and that's when it's on our doorstep. We'll see quite a bit of snowfall Tuesday morning, especially into the Rockies of Wyoming and throughout Montana, and that kind of lingers across the area throughout Tuesday until we kind of start to dry things out a little bit for Tuesday night. But Wednesday morning could be a wet and snowy one, especially towards the Bighorn National Forest and into the Black Hills of South Dakota. Now, forecast precip shows us that chance of seeing upwards of about 6 to 12 inches of snowfall, and that rain just kind of trace amounts from time to time. Those temperatures are gradually cooling down before we warm up by the weekend in Jackson. Now we're taking over to Horizon to some of the things going on in the Northeast. Yeah, you guessed it. We have to talk about those snow and rain totals. We are staying a bit breezy, but at least we are starting to dry out a little bit. Some of those snow reports coming out of the Northeast in the last 48 hours. We've seen over 14.5 inches of snow in Landgrove, Vermont, and across areas of New Hampshire as well as eastern New York. We did see over a foot of snow in the last 2 days, and we could see that here. Snowfall totals where you see those bright pinks and dark purple showing up, that's where we had those highest snowfall rates. We do have some lingering winter weather alerts into areas of eastern New York as well as Vermont because that snow hasn't ended just yet, but they expire later tonight as it starts to get out of the area. Now, different kind of precip that we did see with the system was some rainfall. We did see over 3.5 inches of rain along the coast of Maine. Maine, you were really the winners out of the system by seeing so much rainfall, but even Philly saw nearly 2 inches of rain. Looking at that forecast, you could see that snow is pretty stubborn in areas of Vermont as well as eastern New York until later this evening. By that drive home from work, it could look a lot better out there, but as you can see, this low takes its sweet time getting out of the area. So even portions of eastern Maine reaching towards Nova Scotia, you can see that snowfall early Tuesday morning, depending on the time you get up. But hopefully things are dry by the time you hit the road into work by Tuesday. Much of Tuesday is going to be dry for us. Our next system skims into the area Wednesday, bringing us a chance of actually seeing some rain in places that we just saw a dumping of snowfall in, actually. It's going to be pretty spotty and scattered, but it is something to note. Mostly dry at this point, though. Forecast accumulation, where you see those dark blues, that's the chance of seeing upwards of about 3 to 5 more inches of snow throughout the day, but kind of trace amounts of rain over the next few days. That temperature trend actually shows a nice warming temp, 36 degrees in Burlington today, but 50 by Wednesday. Now taking it over to those wind alerts, it's still going to be a breezy day today until Tuesday early morning. Gusts up to 60 miles per hour are possible from Maine all the way into the Appalachia. And like you guessed it, if you haven't been outside yet today, that breeze is already picking up. And like I said, those gusts could reach up to 60 miles per hour. However, they won't be as widespread as we have seen in the past couple of days. Things calm down overnight tonight, but tomorrow, bit of a breeze at times. As you can see, some more green showing up here, but definitely not as bad as it was yesterday. And